Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Always on CX and EX presented by AudioCodes Voca. Here we talk about customer experience, employee experience, and everything in between. In this episode, we're going to be talking about IVR design, what to do, best practices, and some things you shouldn't do. So today we have with us Oren Batchelor. He is one of our contact center experts here at AudioCodes. But Oren, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks, Josh. I'm Oren. I've been in the industry for over 10 years. Started out working for BT OpenReach, then moved over to working for 8x8. And now I work in AudioCodes as a subject matter expert for the contact center product, Voca.
Awesome. Good to see you, Oren. Glad that we could have you onto this episode. I know you know a lot about this subject. We talked a couple times prior to this, and we're able to have a good conversation. I learned a lot from you. So yeah, really excited what you have for us. All right, Oren. So the IVR has been around for a little while. It's had quite an evolution over the years. I wanted to get your opinion on how the IVR has gotten to where it is as kind of like the staple in the customer journey.
So callers, we're calling a business, and it might be presented with a menu option where it's maybe press 1 for support or press 2 for sales. And this is like the first stage where we're allowing the caller to interact with the IVR by pressing a digit on the keypad. Then over time, the IVR system continued to evolve, becoming more advanced and sophisticated. Not only could it handle the customer interactions by pressing a digit on the keypad, we incorporated the ability of speech recognition and natural learning processing capabilities, which allow the caller to interact with the IVR system using spoken words and responses. Then when businesses started to realize the potential of the IVR system in the automating and the streamlining of the customer interactions, the IVR system started to be used a lot more as a contact center feature. And we see this today where we have IVR flows created with the full contact center ecosystem. So when we're looking at maybe voice flows, we're seeing them visually. We can do like drag and drop voice flows, where maybe back in the day before they were not visually being able to be seen, or maybe left to maybe like a coder to do, or someone that's maybe more technical, whereas now you don't have to be too technical to be able to create a voice flow. Also, we've got IVR such as features such as the music on hold, or position in the queue, or the music on hold is usually maybe an option where we can have an advertisement opportunity or an announcement, so we can utilize that feature. Then we've also got the data dips, so we can dip into a database or CRM such as the Salesforce, the HubSpot, the Microsoft Dynamics, and pull relevant information to maybe locate who the caller is, or to help the agent maybe with the last request from the call or the call log. We can also do conditional routing. So what we can do is maybe we've got a specific list of names or callers who maybe are VIP, so they get a different experience, right? So what we can do is we can have a look at the number. That number will match against a CRM system or a database. If it recognizes if they match as a priority or a VIP, we route them through to maybe a top tier engineer or a top tier agent. We give them a VIP experience. We can use conditional routing that way. And also, as we said, we've got voice recognition. But then not only that, also the IVR reporting wise. So we're able to also get a full picture of the customer journey from the IVR all the way to the queue. So we can see what the caller says or what the caller pressed. So when the caller says that they've said this or said that, we can help locate their journey, and we can see maybe why they went through to the wrong queue or why they went here. So it's come a long way, and it's still evolving. We're seeing now with the conversational AI side. But yeah, there are just a few things that we're noticing nowadays, and we can see today in the contact center world.
All right, Oren, thank you for kind of taking us on that journey. That's quite a lot of information, especially just seeing how much the IVR has changed. Kind of didn't start as something relevant to the contact center, but people saw its potential in being implemented with that, and then kind of transitioned over to being, that staple for the contact center. When it comes to IVR systems, and there are a couple of different approaches that businesses can take, including, like speech-driven or conversational IVR and DTMF IVRs. maybe in your experience, what are some of the new challenges that come with adopting a conversational IVR, and how does that impact the customer experience?
So we have DTMF IVR systems. They have been around for a few years now, so they're quite a popular option amongst businesses. In fact, a lot of the times we hear it so commonly now when we call up a phone number or a business, we'll just hear a DTMF option. So we tend to see a lot of businesses just keep to that same tradition of just using something that's familiar, so they don't want to change or they don't change. Then we also think that it doesn't cost much to implement a DTMF. So we're seeing businesses just slap on a DTMF option in their IVR system and then just leave it like that because they don't have to pay a bigger cost for an IVR system. So it's really that they're cheap and they're familiar. But there are some drawbacks. So when we're using a DTMF, we're limited by the 10 digits on our keypad, and that can be really frustrating for the caller, when they find that maybe the options that we provided aren't the options that we need. So what we're doing is really, in fact, we're limiting the caller based on what we want to route or how we want to route them. We really want to kind of give that power to the caller. So when we only using DTMF, we're really limiting them to that 10 options, which then maybe they feel that those options aren't suitable for where they want to go. Then lastly, we're limiting what the IVR has to offer as well. So if we're just using a DTMF, that can just keep going on and on. Press 1 for this, and then you have to listen to another prompt, press option 1 for this, and so forth. And what we're doing is we're creating a really poor IVR system there, which can lead to a negative customer experience. And then you might say, well, you're being a bit harsh there. What makes you say that? But let's just think of it today, right? We've all heard of Alexa or Siri. In fact, we've probably got it here right now. Sorry if I've activated it. But we're so used to speaking to these sort of devices or these systems where we can just, rather than searching the internet and typing out a question, we would maybe say, oh, hey, Siri or Alexa, what's the weather today? What's the latest sports information? And then we hear that information. In fact, we can even have an interaction with Siri where it's just natural language. It gives you that natural experience. And this is where conversational IVR comes in. Conversational IVR has a natural experience or has a range of benefits. The first being that it provides a more natural experience. So this allows the companies to fit in as many departments or destinations as they need and contacts. And then, so we're not limiting the caller with the options. We're allowing the callers to reach the best possible destination. So it does give them more power to the caller. And this sometimes allows the caller to maybe reach a very small department in the organization. So those are just some of the advantages and challenges that we face today when it comes to adopting IVR systems and how they impact the customer experience.
Yeah, no, when I think of like the DTMF menu, and we had a call where we had an episode earlier with Brandon Everett Smith, one of the contact center experts here in North America. And he was kind of sharing how, we had a customer who had quite a long DTMF menu. It was very full, all 10 options, kind of fitting into the flow. And, if you needed number, say, 9 on the menu and you're waiting through all the prompts that were said, you're sitting there for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And then by the time you listen to all the prompts, maybe you actually did need number 2. But the thing is, you may have forgotten what number 2 was. So then it's like, well, I need to repeat what these were. And then you're there for another minute and a half. You don't really know. It can be just sitting there for a long time. And eventually it doesn't really lead to a great experience for the customer. I know I've been that person who's sitting there and I'm like, I don't really know what I need. I'm just going to hit 0, please. Versus, with the conversational IVR, having the ability to, you hear the prompt of like, in your own words, please tell us how we can help you today. And when you can kind of provide that response and, you can be a little bit more specific as well, and you're not kind of kept into the box that's given to you. typically that's going to lead to a better experience. It's going to lead to being sent to the right area to have a resolution to your problem. Lauren, so we have this this concept of this self-service IVR, kind of being from like the customer standpoint of kind of that relates back to like the conversational IVR, being able to voice your need yourself rather than being kind of fit into the box of a DTMF. How would an organization go about setting up a self-service IVR flow?
But these days, people are busy. So for like simple inquiries or simple support, they won't call up. They'll tend to maybe get the information from the website or from Google, and they'll tend to maybe leave the complex queries or support that they may need. When that's when they'll call your IVR. And this is where we can utilize self-service. So, rather than having the caller waiting in the IVR or in the queue because your agent wait time is higher, because we all know agents aren't just waiting for calls, they're busy. So we can utilize self-service to help provide a better experience. So we could use, for example, call authentication, so we can validate certain information that rather than maybe have the agent ask the caller this, we can get this information from the caller, and then we can route them through directly to where they need to go. Or it could be maybe payment. Yeah, so we have many self-service payment systems like PCI Pal, and maybe if it's a bank, you just want to maybe find out your bank balance. So we can utilize these technologies, these services, whereby it looks at your CLI. We then ask you to verify maybe biometrically from your voice. So if it's a bank, just to make sure it's you. And then we can give you access to maybe certain things such as maybe knowing your bank balance, or let's say, for example, you want to report your card lost or stolen, or maybe you just need to renew your card, your new credit card. So that's a way where we can utilize technology such as payment services, using the APIs and using the self-service system to pull this relevant information. It can also be done when it comes to resetting passwords. So maybe you just want a verification code or a passphrase that has been set up on the account for existing customers. And what you can do is you can have the caller mention that passphrase or that passcode. If it matches up, then you can send them an SMS to a link where they can reset their password. Yeah, that's another way we can use self-service. We can also have a look at the caller ID, and we can route the call to the last agent that they spoke with. So we're providing a personalized experience there, because we can see what the caller, who the caller spoke to, and we can provide them with the agent that can maybe assist them with their existing query. Or perhaps when they call in, we can locate the location. So looking at where they're calling from, we can then provide them or route them through to a branch that's closest to them. So maybe I always like to use the experience or example of maybe if it's a hospital or a surgery, or maybe if, for example, maybe it is just a bank branch, and we can route them through to a branch near them. But also we can do personalization in the sense of referring to someone by the name. So how this is done, it's utilizing the features of integrating with a CRM. So first of all, maybe we'll look at the CLI number. We'll match up against a database or a CRM such as a Salesforce or HubSpot. And if that recognizes the number on there, what we can then do is we can pull various fields, we call JSON values. So it could be maybe like the first name, or it could be the status of the ticket, or it could be that bank balance. And we can pull those fields into a real-time text-to-speech. And then this can say, oh, hi, Josh, your current status of your tickets is pending. Or it could say your current balance is so and so. So we can use such a self-service to help utilize a better experience for the caller. One other experience is when we think of a doctor's surgery, right? Sometimes when we're trying to book a doctor's appointment, we're having to wait in the queue because the reception is just so busy. Well, we can automate that. Yeah. So what we can do, we can have a voice IVR system where we're utilizing self-service by using a product such as Microsoft Power Automate. And we can integrate that with our calendar, such as maybe Outlook. So what this does is when the caller calls through to the IVR, it will say to the caller, welcome to the appointment booking session. These are available appointments. And what that's doing is it's looking in the back end to see the next 3 available slots on the calendar, and then providing those options to the caller. Then when the caller selects the option or decides which option they want, it will then mark that option as booked in the calendar. So another example of self-service is if maybe you're a medical business, and rather than having your callers call up and having to wait in the queue just to speak to reception to book an appointment, you could have it where they call up a self-service IVR system, and the IVR can help the caller schedule an appointment, all without having to speak to a receptionist. And this is all being done without even having to speak to a receptionist. So we're automating the process and making it helpful for the customer experience. So there are just a few ways how we can technically and how it works in the back end and how some of these features are working using APIs and services that we can all implement into our IVRs using self-service.
I think self-service is one of the biggest advantages that can come with using an IVR and a conversational IVR, especially when it comes to the customer experience and being able, like he said, to just simply call in and book an appointment without even really having to talk to a person. You know, that's not typically something that you would maybe need a receptionist for, where they can spend their time doing more of the important aspects of their job. You know, as far as like, all right, we have the advantages of the self-service IVR and those pieces. What are some typical mistakes that maybe a company makes with their IVR design?
Yeah, there are many typical mistakes that I see companies make when it comes to IVR options. The first one being is too many menu options. Companies often create the IVR menu with too many options that they don't even need. And this can be really overwhelming for customers and make it difficult for them to find the information that they need. Another one is that IVRs are not being optimized continuously. And this should really be something that we should be doing constantly. We should be looking at reports, spotting the trend of what people are looking for, and dynamically adjusting our IVR our IVR accordingly. For example, maybe this month there was a billing issue with the billing system, so everyone is calling to pay their bill. So what we should be doing is we should be going to our IVR and maybe making option one the billing department. Then that will show that we're really keeping an eye and we're really looking at trends and helping to make sure that we provide a good customer experience. But customers sometimes don't always want to go through the continuous optimization of the IVR because they think it's maybe too complex, or that they think that they can just create it and leave it. But no, little do they know that actually really creates a bad customer experience. There's sometimes when maybe you're here in IVR and you'll hear a promotion that IVR that was dating back 6 months ago. So callers can really be quick to pick up on certain errors or mistakes in the IVR. Another one is maybe the prompts. How long are our prompts? Sometimes we can have a prompt that's really long. So maybe we've mentioned the options, but at the end of the options, we've had a prompt as well. So by the time that prompt's finished, the caller's forgotten what the option they wanted to press. So we really want to be conscious of how long our prompts are and making sure that they're not too long. If we maybe got promotions or announcements in our prompts, let's maybe utilize them a bit better. Maybe while the customer is maybe waiting in the queue, we can maybe, rather than having music on hold, we could use a promotion or an announcement there. Also, another common thing that we see, we hear customers complain about, is not collecting the call information and using that information to not only just route the call to the right person, but also to provide that information to the agent. So an example of this, right? Called up my cable, my broadband provider, and they asked me for my ID number in the IVR. Reached through to the agent, and you know what the agent asked me? He says, "Oh, please, can you provide me your ID number?" See, this is really frustrating because not only did I provide it to the IVR, I didn't have to provide it to the agent. The agent should be able to see my ID number and be able to help me with my issue correctly and more quickly. So when I'm having to repeat myself, that can be really frustrating to not only me, but also to callers as well. So we really want to be utilizing the information that we're collecting the IVR and also presenting that information to the agent so that we can assist the caller. So that's another mistake that I see very common.
I can say as a customer myself, I have experienced that last point many times. I've experienced it from a good IVR design and a bad one, where you see, there was one time I was on the phone with a company and had to repeat, my phone number, my name, and whatever piece of information was used to verify my identity or whatever. like 3 times to 3 different agents because I got routed multiple times to get to the right person. And, just from a customer standpoint, that's really frustrating. It almost comes across as like, your experience as a customer doesn't really matter. Versus when you have like a really good experience, especially when you're on the phone and you get routed to another department or agent and they greet you with your name. That's when like it just feels like a completely different customer experience. They really care about who you are because they're greeting you with your first name. And that kind of comes back to their systems and what they're using to be able to provide a better customer experience.
That's right. That is definitely true. I know sometimes it's done for verification, like if you're in customer support and you're getting your calls monitor,
Yeah.
you have to for verification, you have to actually ask the caller, can you confirm your email address? But
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of times I do not enjoy calling into to support lines because typically it's not a good experience. Typically, every now and
And
then
no
you get
doubt
a good
is,
one.
and I know that is all due to those mistakes that I've mentioned. That's
Yeah,
really
it
put
is.
you off sometimes.
Yeah, seriously,
Yeah.
like my mortgage company, phenomenal experience, really, really good. They nail it every single time. And that, that's kind of like my expectation, mortgage company, you're dealing with money and things like that. And it's important to have a good experience there because you can really frustrate a customer when it has something to do with money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
And,
an important one.
and it's funny you say that actually, because sometimes, maybe if you just, like I said in the previous about how people are busy, right? Sometimes when it comes to calling the IVR, a customer or a caller will think to themselves, have I got the time to sit through the IVR or to go through this? Like, or maybe I'll call them another day. And that can put a caller off from wanting to maybe interact with your business via the IVR because they just know it maybe be a long wait or maybe it'd be a long a long task just to even get the information that they need. So we really need to really put ourselves in the customer foot shoes and just think what's the experience we want to deliver to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have another example of that. I'm not going to name this company, but it does also relate to money and like retirement savings. When you want to roll those things over sometimes, and yeah, that is. I know it's a difficult process. There's a lot of things that need to be verified and come into rolling over, retirement accounts and things like that. But you think since that can be a stressful thing to do, how much more emphasis there should be on the customer experience because people can choose to leave a company based off of the experience that they have, especially when it comes to when it's something important or that matters to them. Kind of nailing that customer experience, it starts with a lot of the things that you mentioned in the IVR design. All right, Oren. So we just kind of talked about, what are some of the typical mistakes that a company would make in their IVR design? Maybe what are some of the tips that you would give to setting up a world-class IVR?
Yeah, you got me there. You got me there. Well, I think the first point we need to really just take a step back is it starts with putting the caller first. Yeah, a few questions maybe we need to think about is, well, how can I make the caller's journey effortless? Yeah, what could I do? Maybe you can utilize CRM integrations, database integrations, utilizing data dips. Or if maybe I don't have a lot of agents, could I combine this with a self-service IVR to better assist the customer and then prevent them from waiting in the queue for a long time? So when we think about conversational AI, we mentioned earlier about people are used to talking to Siri. So really, we want to be kind of using the latest technology that we have available. So the more we help the caller to talk to the menu, the more intuitive and easy it'll be for them. And if we can support natural languages understanding, even better, because then we're allowing our callers to use their everyday language to talk freely. And when you do that, make sure your custom vocab, so maybe your unique departments, names, or product names are supported in your conversational IVR interface as well. So that's one point. So making sure maybe you utilize conversational AI. Another one is automating. So I mentioned it earlier, is the more that we can automate out of the customer journey, the happier the caller and the agent will be. So, for example, rather than asking for the caller for their email address or their ticket number, or maybe, for example, how can we assist you today? Can we maybe route them through to maybe a support queue? So we recognize the CLI number, and what we can do is we can route them through to a support queue, or maybe we recognize the CLI number, and then we route them through to the agent that they spoke to. Or maybe we could have a look, so based on maybe their last calls, if they've called if they called through to the billing department, we could route their call, and before routing them to the billing department, we could provide them with their bank balance. So look at ways of how we can maybe kind of put ourselves in the customer's shoes, and kind of think, oh, maybe the customer wants to do this. Let's provide them with this information, and then see where we go from there. Another way as well is we kind of touched on that, is to help segmentize and route the caller to the best matching agent. So we're using skill-based routing. Yeah. So routing them to the best agent that can assist them with their queries. So do you remember we mentioned earlier that majority of the time callers aren't calling in for simple tasks. They'll use the internet for that. What they're calling you to do is maybe complex tasks that maybe they have inquiries about or they just can't do. So rather than having going round and round in the IVR or from department to department, let's route them through to the correct agent instantly. Yeah. And then lastly, optimize. Always have your eye on your IVR reports. Look at the trends. What are the trends? What are people calling the IVR for? Where are they going through? What's the most common departments? What I like to do, what I used to say is, it's good to look at the reports and have a look at our IVR menu and see what the callers are saying. So, for example, maybe we've got 4 options. Let's have a look at those 4 options. Is everyone using those 4 options, or is it maybe just the first 2 options that what the callers are doing? So maybe we should optimize our IVR and remove those other 2 options so that we only have 2 options. So we really want to kind of look at the IVR reports, and we have IVR reports now where we can actually see the customer on the caller's journey, and we can see what they said in the IVR, and we can see where they routed through to. So we can use this information to extract and then also optimize our IVR. And this should be something that we do continuously. So maybe in a month's time, or within a short space of time. It shouldn't be something that we do once and then we leave it for the month or for 6 months or for years, because things are always changing. Trends are always changing. So we want to make sure that we're optimizing our customer experience and providing them with the best experience that they can have.
I love your point on the optimized piece, because you mentioned earlier about, it's kind of tying optimization to what is going on with the customer experience. That your billing system, you mentioned this earlier, your billing system is down. Okay, then what we should expect from the customer is that a lot of people are probably going to be calling into our support line. All right, so if we can anticipate that, optimizing means, like you said, putting the billing option as number 1 on the IVR. That leads to a much better experience, because, you're listening to your customers. You realize, all right, our billing system is down. Okay, that's difficult. That's a problem that we need to solve. But what can we do for our customers to help make that a little bit easier on them, and also on the agents? Because typically, like, if someone's calling in about billing, your billing system's down, they need someone, your customers need to pay their bill, or they're having questions about it. That can be frustrating for the customer, because they're having to go out of their way to change the way they're doing something. And, that frustration can then lead into how the communication between an agent. So when you can set up the agent for a good, successful call, that just makes the experience much better for both parties.
Exactly. Even another point I was just thinking about is like, for example, maybe if you're, like we said about the billing, if you're aware of there's a service or issue down, rather than letting your agents be overwhelmed with so many calls waiting in the queue, we could maybe utilize or add a little short message or something that can help call deflect, right? Sometimes callers just call in, they just want to know what's happened. Yeah, just a little message or a call deflection can just help reduce that call volume and reduce maybe those pointless calls that agents are having to take. So looking and thinking and optimizing and seeing the trends of what callers are saying can really help us create that world-class IVR and that customer experience.
All right, and that's a wrap for this episode of Always on CX and EX. Again, this is where we talk about customer experience, employee experience, and everything in between. If you're watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment box below. Myself or Oren will be happy to answer those and also consider those as future topics. But Oren, thank you, man, so much. Your expertise on this topic was just exceptional.
Oh, thank you, Josh, and thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.